This is going to be our third segment. Probably do 4 today.
3 or 4.
3 or 4. Probably do one more.
So okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
And
and might even put
so at least 4 or 5.
And might not even. And we might even release the 4th one first because it's so.
Because it's the one that's most timely, and so
most timely and get it out there. Right.
Put that one out today or tomorrow, and then stack them date one per day.
If you're I haven't done it.
Well, no, we've been averaging about 10 or 20 views per episode per YouTube, and then about 100 views per TikTok.
Yeah,
per episode. So
I was looking on there, and when I looked at the view count, it was above 200 on almost all of them.
Yeah. So,
but I mean, does that mean they actually watch the whole thing? You know,
well, what's interesting is you can look back and see where on average they stopped watching.
I used to do that stuff for a living, so I know that there's probably a bunch of stuff going on.
But it still means something. I mean,
So, anyways, who's actually paying attention? I don't know. But if you are, might come in a different order than
Right.
4 might be 1. It's an upside down world we're living in, folks.
Yeah, in more ways than one. In more ways than one. Yeah.
So, anyways, okay.
Oh well, to that point, I know I've mentioned this on my personal videos more than once, but the insanity of the Gulf of Mexico, where I now have plans to go in about 2 weeks, which, as far as I'm concerned, is still the Gulf of Mexico, because the only reason it changed was because somebody's ego got hurt. Okay, that's it. But where it gets crazy, where it gets super, super duper crazy, is if you watch the press secretary, she acts like it's always been the Gulf of America. And it's like, okay, even if we go out on a super long limb and we say, oh, he did it through committee and blah, 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 none of that's true. But even if we believe that, 2 weeks ago it was the Gulf of Mexico and nobody thought twice about it. What? Don't gaslight us like that.
Well, I mean, the whole thing is so silly. And everything that comes out of that person's mouth is so silly and insane that it's
no. But the not silly part is that people on the right, they don't see her that way. They actually
because there's a whole discussion with that too, but about their twisted thought process. But look. Isn't that international waters to begin with?
Yeah, so really we don't even have the jurisdiction.
What gives him the jurisdiction? When was it named and how? And
about 500 years ago.
Yeah, and then that's my understanding too. I thought it was 300, 400, but whatever, a long fucking time ago.
Right.
And
longer than the United States has been the United States.
Yeah, so longer than we've been around, it's been called that for good reason. I don't think there could be, I don't think any other ocean or area of land has changed its name in quite some time, and if it is, I think it should require some kind of consensus that this is what
I actually looked it up, and there is a process to do that. You're supposed to go through such and such committee and blah blah blah. Yeah.
Right. So obviously that didn't happen unilaterally. Once again, as a fascist that he is, he decides he's going to rename it, and these sycophants capitulated and said, "Okay, well, we'll change Google Maps." Well, you know what? Google Maps, do whatever the hell you want, because when Trump's not president and it goes back, he'll switch it back, right? I hope so.
No, they will.
It just shows what spineless backs these companies, these tech bros are. I know Google's thing was do no harm.
Yeah.
Those freaking idiot.
Well, the disgusting part is they're still at this rate, they're still doing better than some of the other tech companies.
Yeah, they're one of the least. Yeah. The least of the evil, but
yeah.
That's a whole thing we can dive into. I thought we were going to talk about these firings.
Oh, right. Let's do that.
The Gulf. So when we title this, it'll be Gulf of Mexico. Gulf of Mexico / not America
/ layoffs
and then layoffs. So so they're gutting we got Doge. Allegedly going in there we had this discussion before, how they're not looking for fraud. If they were looking for fraud, they would have bought auditors. It would have took them a long time. They don't even know how to audit. The funny thing is there's already auditors in place that are auditing. A lot of them were auditing Trump and Musk. They fired 5 of those dudes who were auditing Trump and Musk. So it's so laughable that you would even... The conflict of interest is so obvious that anybody who could possibly believe that somebody who has government contracts, who gets tax break, who all these things, and has gotten tens and tens of billions of dollars of government assistance and aid, is going to go there and get rid of some kind of waste. And they've identified very little. Most of what they have identified has been proven false. They've not even been able to get dates correct because they don't know about the old languages and that are the legacy language. All kinds of problems there because that's not what they're doing, And
okay. Well, the point I was going to make is, that in theory they're getting rid of people based on performance or based on overspending or these kinds of things. But in reality, they're going through and saying, oh, well, we need to trim X amount from this department, so we're just going to fire 100 or 1,000 or 200 or whatever. And they're not even checking, performance reviews or whatever. It's not that people had a poor performance review. They're not even checking that stuff.
Right. So there was a twofold agenda here, and it wasn't to find fraud and waste, because they are the fraud and waste. It was to dismantle government services
and smokescreen what they were doing.
And I believe to gain data on everything they possibly could and hide data that they don't want people to know about. And that's what they're doing. Can I prove any of this? No. But what else are they fucking doing in there? Like, these people are criminal. And even Musk said, if Trump doesn't get elected, I'm going to jail. I mean,
his exact words.
Yeah, these people they tell it all. I mean, they literally tell you, like I said, make America great again. For who? I am against Antifa. Then what are you for? Like, these people tell you to your face what they're doing. And Trump said I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and nobody would do a thing about it.
And increasingly, he's proving that true.
Right. Musk gave a Nazi salute to the freaking Trump and to the audience. And you try to deny it?
And not only did he do it twice, but then the next day he went and spoke in front of basically the German neo-Nazis.
Right. And then Bannon did it. And then, all these guys are Nazis. Don't let them fool you. Please don't. George Floyd wasn't getting choked. Rodney King was fighting back.
Sandy Hook didn't really happen.
I mean, where is your head at this point? Musk didn't give a Nazi salute. You're gone. You're lost if you believe that nonsense. You are absolutely lost. You're trying to wiggle your way out of reality. So, anyways, and to fit your racist, bigoted, misogynistic reality that you don't want to address inside yourself, and you're only gaslighting yourself at this point because people recognize it and they know you're laughable fool at this point.
Oh, like the firings in the military, that was...
Okay, so back to the firings.
Yeah.
So once again, this is a way to dismantle the U.S. government. So you can start, you were saying...
Well, the bottom line is they got rid of anybody who could have been considered a minority, even when they were extremely, well... I mean, they had strong records, is what I'm saying, and they replaced them with old white guys who do not have good records, are barely hanging by a thread.
And
I could go into details, but most of you...
the military or the...
The military.
Okay, let's start there. Okay, so they got rid of a bunch of generals and some high-ranking officials. Obviously, because he wants his, sycophants underneath him. Because if he starts giving off these decrees, these orders, a lot of these guys that were there would have said, no, that's an unlawful order. I'm not going to do that, sir. It's part of the military code after World War II. You do not have to obey an unlawful order. And you can just say, I don't want to obey this because I think it's unlawful, and then it has to go through the courts. Well, unfortunately, at this point, he's trying to take over the courts, and then he's trying to take over all the top brass. So even at the lower levels, if you say this is unlawful, they can just put your ass in jail, or who knows, firing squad, the way these crazies are. But hopefully, within the military ranks, there will be a lot of people who just say, no, that's unlawful, but we'll see what happens. But anyways, go ahead.
But once they do that, are they just going to get booted out and then replaced by
people who will shoot at protesters and things? I think it wouldn't take much for only a fraction of the people to say no before it gets real ugly. And if there's a coup within the military, that's when things are really starting to get serious. I don't think en masse people will back Trump at the end of the day. I don't, but I was wrong about a lot of stuff with Trump.
Well, and the problem is that we keep saying that the courts will stop him,
But not anymore.
but if he can effectively get to a point where he can ignore the courts and then nothing happens, which we're just about there,
Right.
then it doesn't matter that the courts say what he does is unlawful. He's going to do it anyways.
Right. Well, I mean, look back to the civil rights era. When the people were getting hosed down in the streets, and the dogs were unleashed on people, even some of the most hardened people were like, "Oh man, this is wrong. This is wrong." If we start seeing, even Kent State too.
Yeah.
I think that when it gets to that point, and Trump is telling people to, he even asked one of his generals, like, "Why can't we just shoot him in the knees?"
Yep.
To the protesters when he wanted to go across the street and do that photo op with the upside down Bible. But no, he just tear gassed him instead and beat him back. But he wanted to shoot him, literally. I mean, he said stuff like this. So yeah, if he would get away with. The only thing stopping this man from murdering and like going full Stalin, are some people that have some gonads and are saying no to him.
And there aren't enough of those.
And now he's replacing everybody with people who will say yes.
Yeah.
So, and this has been a 50-year course of action. They've been playing this long game.
Oh yeah,
for a long time.
If you're talking the Heritage Foundation, since the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, so this has been a long game for them. They've been putting these things in place, slowly raising the temperature over a course of time. And I'm not sure if we talked about this in any of our segments, but I call it like the raising the temperature on the frog. Have you ever heard that analogy where, like, if a frog sits in water, and I believe it's frog, not a toad, but if you turn the heat up slowly, it will not jump off, and it will literally sit there until it boils to death. That is how far the right is slowly progressed. So we don't even realize how hot the water is now. Now we're in fascism and ready to die, and still people are not jumping out. Like, that's where we're at.
The state of the press is a good example, and it's not just what's happening with like the news in the White House, but did you hear the latest about the Washington Post?
Mm-mm.
The latest about the Washington Post is Jeff Bezos put down a decree that said the opinion page and the editorials are not allowed to publish anything that is critical of Trump.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, they've been compromised forever.
Well,
this is the funny thing in America, right? Corporate-run media. There are people who are so far right and fascist and Christian nationalist that they really believe that there's a progressive, far left, radical, liberal media in America. Then by any standard,
if that were true, Trump wouldn't have won. Let's put it that way.
First of all, that is laughable at face value simply because it's corporate controlled and run. So and that just runs right into the face of capitalism to begin with. So right off the bat, that can't be true. So it's manufactured consent. Read it. It's in Noam Chomsky's book. But the whole premise is bizarro world to begin with. But yeah, we've gone so far right that there is like maybe a middle media called MSNBC, middle of the road. Any other standards of the world?
Oh, any other state? Yeah.
Or what real progressives means? What real progressive would entail if we didn't just go back to where we were in the 50s economically?
Actually, I think the closest thing to the real left here is The Guardian, which is technically a British-owned publication.
Yeah, The Guardian's pretty good. I read The Guardian.
Yeah.
I look at to them all the time because they're pretty good, pretty fair and balanced.
Right.
But I mean, fair and balanced in this world today is considered far left radical. That is where we're at. There are no anarchists from like 1900 running. Like, that doesn't, like, these guys that were radicals back in the day don't exist. Like this far left, there's no fucking socialist revolution going on. There's not, just get the hell out of here. Like, if you're a neoliberal capitalist lover, you're far left. Like, they call out Obama as being radical. And like, dude, he was like the most neoliberal, stroking the capitalist system Christian you could ever want. Like, he was black. That was it.
But even then, he was only half black.
Right. But that was enough to make them go insane. Yeah, because we can all see what this is about, guys. We all see through you. We know what this is about. You don't even know yourself. Oh, man. So anyways, back to the point. Firing people. Willy-nilly, calling it DEI hire, whatever they want to call it. They're not doing it for any reason whatsoever but to get rid of people.
Yep.
And they can't even back it up. And they've gone so ridiculous that they're firing people from the VA, the national parks. Who else?
And the crazy part is the initial statement was, because we're going to save money. But if you look at the actual amount of money that they're saving, it doesn't add up to really anything. I mean, it's laughable. But in its stead, you have an absence of people doing valuable work.
Okay, so beyond the fact that absence of people doing valuable work, which actually can stimulate economies. And these people stimulate economies in a lot of various ways that are probably not even measured, and some of them are. And even the ones that are measured says that actually in the long term this makes money,
right?
Like national parks, you would imagine.
Yeah.
So it's probably a sum gain at the end of the day. But anyways, like even going beyond that, then there's the immeasurables of just having these systems in place.
Right.
But I mean, as far as veterans, not giving someone care, but now they have to go into an emergency room. Who's that costing? Then let's talk about all these people out of a job. Now what? How does that help the economy?
Well, you mentioned the hospitals. I mean, they're trying to do away with Medicare and Social Security
now what?
as well.
So people die in the streets. Now what?
Yeah.
Now they go to the hospital without Medicaid? Is the hospital going to say, well, we're not going to get any money now? No, they're going to put you out, man.
Right. Because as it is, like I know from personal experience that I forget what the percentage is, but it's some at least 10 to 20%, if not higher, of like everybody that gets seen. Most of their stuff gets paid by Medicare or Medicaid.
Right. Or not at all.
Or not at all. But
they're using it as a way because they can't go to a doctor.
If they get any money from that person at all for whatever care they get, a lot of of that money that they do get, which isn't necessarily everything they're billed, but whatever they do get comes from Medicare or Medicaid. So now you're taking that away. So instead of getting what might not have looked like much, they get nothing.
Mm-hmm. You know, that's a whole nother discussion about hospitals getting screwed. So then they got to charge these extraordinary amounts for aspirin because half the people can't pay. So, and it's not their fault. It's not the doctors that are raking in this money. It's not the hospitals in the most part. Some are, but the majority of them aren't. Some might even have to close down because they can't afford it. It's not the fault of these people. It's the fault of the system that is so much money. You go in there and you're like, why is it this much for this or that? Well, start adding up the costs because our healthcare is broken. They have to survive. And it's not like the pharmaceutical companies who are just price gouging. It's a whole different thing going on there.
Oh, that's something I've been watching more.
But anyways, back to the discussion. We totally veered off.
Sure.
Who else is getting laid off? So we were going to go. Okay, so we talked about parks, and now it's going to be a nightmare to get to the parks, even if you will, And I thought it was great they hung the upside down flag on North Face.
Yeah.
Or was it North Face? Or one of the what's the other one?
Eagle Pass or something? No, not Eagle Pass.
There's two big rocks there. But at any rate, one of those. And so then also back to the air traffic control situation. Now, I'm not 100%, I don't know all the details about that. I don't know, have people been let go or is it
They have been let go, but I'm getting more and more confused as to exactly who and exactly how many. But I know that it's a lot.
So that is true that people are getting let go.
Yes, I'm just...
Or they're being pressured to leave.
No, some people have been let go. I'm just... If you were to ask me, hey, don't say anything unless you know 100%. I'm confused on the details at this point.
Me too.
But there have been people let go.
The word is, from what I'm hearing, is they're short-staffed.
Right.
Somehow.
But if I remember correctly, they were short-staffed before, and then they let a bunch of people go. So they just made a bad problem worse.
Look, they're having difficulties, let's put it that way, with staffing for a variety of reasons. And instead of trying to get more people or beef it up or get this or that, they're saying, well, we're going to get rid of more people, and this is what my understanding is, because of DEI hiring, which has nothing to do with anything. You have to pass the same test.
Exactly. These are all the kind of positions. Well, most things out there are the kind of position where you have to be qualified. You have to be qualified. I mean, we could go over a list of what counts as qualified, but they're not hiring anybody who isn't qualified for the jobs that they're supposed to be doing. Regardless of what their makeup is. So
and the funny thing is when they fire all these people and hire these completely incompetent white
then they're actually doing the same DEI that they accuse us of doing. Yeah.
But anyways, back to this topic. That's another topic we can bring up at some point. The hypocrisy of what they're talking about, because they are the DEI. But anyways, once again, the inverted reality of these lunatics. So, so we don't know for sure. But then all of a sudden, since this started happening, how many air incidents?
I want to say at least half a dozen, maybe more. But it was something that would be like a handful a year before at most.
Right.
And now we've had at least half a dozen in less than a month, I guess.
So this goes back to the correlation causation situation, where is this just a coincidence? And, possibly, I'm not going to sit here, but I have to suspect that it needs to be investigated. Like, let's take a look at this because this doesn't look right. Statistically, it doesn't measure.
Right. It doesn't seem logical that there isn't a connection. Now, can I say definitively, hey, for this particular incident, this is what happened? No, I haven't looked at the data closely enough. I can't say that.
Right.
But based on the number of incidents in such a short period of time after taking such a dramatic step,
right,
it seems like there's a fairly obvious.
Causation.
I think
correlations.
Somebody has probably actually drawn some lines for it. I haven't.
Right, we'll see. And I would suspect that there probably is going to be some correlation relating to causation.
Yeah.
People smoking cigarettes. And then all of a sudden they got lung cancer. Yeah. Well, let's take a look at that.
Right.
This is a similar situation. It's way too early.
But like many things, I mean, going back to the cigarettes. I think I was thinking of something else too. But the cigarette example for one. There were doctors and scientists who were making that claim years before they officially started putting the labels out. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think it's the same here, where I don't think it's too early to say it, even though we don't have the confirmation just yet.
At the very least, what it's going to do is say something to the effect of they're struggling right now and they need help, and we should get some more people in there. Like. At the very least, and some of these accidents could actually be caused because of this. That's enough for me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's we know that there's a freaking problem there. Oh my God, we were at 22 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So we're going off the rails on some of these topics here today, but hopefully you sat through this diatribe that we just went through. Man, there's a lot to cover these days. So I guess we'll break this off and go into number 4.
Right.
All right, cool.